Israel is the 8th most powerful nation in the world. Bibi Netanyahu comes out swinging. Our favorite anti-Semitic congresswoman is up to her old tricks, and the U.S. Senate is set to finally recognize that the Golan Heights is part of Israel. Hi, everyone. I'm Ron Cantor, and this is Your Israel Connection. Your Israel Connection is brought to you by Tikkun Global, which is a worldwide family of ministries, congregations, and leaders committed to the dual restoration of Israel and the church. And by Messiah's mandate, raising up leaders for the coming Israel revival. Okay, let's get to the news. So U.S. News and World Report, I didn't even know they were still a thing, but apparently they think that Israel is the 8th most powerful nation in the world. They take in the economy, the military, all kinds of neat things, and they make a list in Israel, tiny little Israel, 9 million people, 6.5 million Jews. We are the 8th most powerful nation in the world. That's pretty amazing. The report goes on to say, for its relatively small size, the country has played a large role in global affairs. The country has a strong economy, landmarks of significance, hello, the Bible kind of started here, to several religions and strained relationships with many of its Arab neighbors. Now, it talks about Israel playing a unusually large role in global affairs. That's pretty amazing. I was thinking about it as I was reading this. Who are the most recognizable heads of state in the world? Obviously, Donald Trump. Obviously, Vladimir Putin. But maybe number 3 is Bibi Netanyahu, Benjamin Netanyahu, who's the prime minister of Israel. He's going through a tough time, and we're going to get to that later. But he might be the 3rd most recognizable head of state in the world. And that's incredible, considering that this nation was born out of prophecy, going back more than 2,000 years ago, when God said, I'm going to bring your people back from all over the world into this nation, and I'm going to bless you, and you're going to prosper. And now we are the 8th most powerful nation in the world, and climbing, because one day, of course, Yeshua is going to come back to the Mount of Olives, and then we'll be number 1. But number 8 is not bad. You might be wondering, who is number 1? I think you know, the United States of America, and then you've got Russia in there, Great Britain, France, and Iran, by the way, is number 13. So we beat out Iran in that. But Israel, according to the report, was the most powerful nation in the entire Middle East. It's not a reason for pride. It's a reason to celebrate the faithfulness of God, that He did bring us back from all over the world, planted us in this country, and we're still here despite the fact that everyone wants to kill us. We're still here. We're prospering. We're number 8, and we're not done. So, as I mentioned at the beginning, Your Israel Connection is brought to you by Tikkun Global. I want to send you a free gift. I wrote a book about a year ago called The Coming End Time Awakening. And I wrote it in less than a week because it just poured out of me about what God is going to do on planet Earth before the coming of the Lord. We are going to see revival. This book will encourage you, and it is free. I just want you to go to tikkun.tv, and you'll see the book there. Click on it, sign up for our email, and we will send you that free book. So the other night, Benjamin Netanyahu, our prime minister, gave a speech to about 300 loyal activists for the Likud party, which he leads. Now, maybe you don't know it, but we're having elections in about a month, and things are really heating up here in Israel. And he's actually fighting for his political life, for his survival of his prime ministership. And he said to his folks, I have to tell you, it's not guaranteed. It's not in our pocket. It will not be simple. It will not be hard. It will be, rather, a hard battle. We need to win because of our path. We need to win because of our beliefs. We need to win because of the great achievements that have brought Israel to its best situation in its history. He is concerned. Right now, he is down in the polls, and you might be wondering, how in the world is he's almost the longest serving prime minister in the history of Israel. If he just makes it to July, he will pass our first prime minister, David Ben-Gurion, and become the longest serving prime minister. In fact, it's pretty amazing. Many younger Israelis, they don't know anything other than Bibi. They don't know anything other than Likud leading the country. A lot of Israelis take comfort in that. But why is he slipping in the polls? Right now, the blue and white party is polling at 36 seats, where Likud is polling at 29 or 30 seats. It's because he's now under indictment. And, last night I went to a talk by Yair Lapid. Yair Lapid, if his blue and white party wins, will probably be the next foreign minister. And then after 2.5 years, per his agreement with General Benny Gantz, he would then become the prime minister. And here's what he said, and he's not the first one to say this. I heard Gantz say it in his speech right after the Netanyahu indictment came down. He said, this is not the Bibi we know. The Bibi we know is different. He's making bad decisions. He's not thinking straight. Now, that could just be a talking point, and I'm sure it is a talking point. Let's plant seeds of doubt that the prime minister is not acting in the best interest of Israel. That doesn't mean that it's not true. He is under indictment. The charges are very serious, and they had to do with fraud and corruption and bribery. Now, those on the right would say, no, it's ridiculous, it's all the media. Those in the center and the left who've actually looked at the report from the Attorney General realize that this is not just made up stuff. So we don't know what's going to happen, but here's what we do know, is that Bibi is fighting hard for his political life. Their new phrase in the Likud party, it's funny, we have political comedy shows just like you have in other countries, and the new phrase, they played a montage of different talking heads, if you will, from the Likud party. It's Bibi or TB, Bibi or TB, Bibi or TB. So you might be wondering, well, I know who Bibi is, but who is TB? Ahmed Tibi is an Arab politician. He pretty much hates Israel. He represents, part of the Arab bloc, about 15% of the Knesset. And what Netanyahu and the Likudniks are saying is that if Gantz wins, and Lapid, in order to form a government, they're going to have to do it with Arab Knesset members and far left parties who would give up Jerusalem and the Golan Heights and everything else. Now, that's not exactly true. Again, it's politics, so you're not, you're not committed to the truth. They're planting seeds, saying if you vote for these people, they're going to give away Jerusalem. Now, I heard Lapid last night say absolutely not in their platform. They will never divide Jerusalem. I don't know that I believe that. I don't know that I believe any of them because they're politicians and they'll say whatever they need to say to get elected, but doesn't mean that it's not true. The point is this. If Gantz and Lapid win, they are going to try with all their effort not to have a government with the far left party, not to have a government with Arab parties, but seek to draw people from the center and the center right together to form a government. The blue and the white party responded to what Bibi said and said, quote, he's seeking to divert the conversation away from the investigation and the indictment that he now faces. Netanyahu knows he'll be going to trial within a year. Let me just say that is going to happen. Innocent or guilty, it's a weird thing that the prime minister of our country, if he is reelected as prime minister, will actually be on trial at the same time. Now, the way it works is this. Is that he has been recommended for indictment. That means he's going to get a hearing. I think that could be 3 to 5 months, something like that. In that hearing, he and his team, his lawyers, they will make their case to the Attorney General and say, this is why this is ridiculous. This is why we are innocent. And then the Attorney General can say, you know what? Good job. You convinced me. I'm throwing this whole thing out. That's probably not going to happen. What's probably going to happen is that from that hearing, it will go onto a formal indictment and a formal hearing. And what the blue and white people are saying is that really what you want? Do you want a prime minister who is at the same time that he's having to deal with Putin and Trump and Kim and Iran and all this stuff, do you want him also spending at least half of his energy dealing with legal issues? So they go on to say, he knows that his time is up. Bibi knows that his time is up. Instead of worrying about the deteriorating health system, the long lines at the ER, the cost of living, he is only worried about himself. Israel is desperately waiting for moral and responsible leadership that will care about the everyday life of its citizens and not with speeches riddled with hate. It's hard to argue. I listen to the speeches. I read the transcripts. It's gotten pretty vicious, a lot of false accusations. But at the end of the day, for me, Yes, integrity is a big, big part of it, but it also comes down to policy. You might be the dude with the best integrity in the world, but if you're going to divide Jerusalem, I can't vote for you. If you're going to give up the Golan Heights, I can't vote for you. And so one of the reasons last night I went to hear Yair Lapid speak is I wanted to hear his platform. I wanted to hear what he would say regarding the Golan Heights, regarding Jerusalem. Because 2 days, I think it's 2 days after our elections, the Trump peace plan, what they're calling, in the only Trumpian way that you can call it, the deal of the century. The century is only 19 years old, but this will be the deal of the century, and it is believed that they're going to want to encourage us to divide Jerusalem, and we're going to say, no, we can't do that. So I can't vote for somebody who's going to divide our inheritance. Spoke about this last week. God says some very harsh things in Joel chapter 3 about anyone who would divide Jerusalem, whether on our side or from any other nation. So I was encouraged by some of the things I heard last night, and some of the things I heard last night concerned me a little bit. So we will see. Can I ask you this? Will you pray for us as we get closer to April 9th? And let me just say this. I know a lot of you love Benjamin Netanyahu. To be honest with you, he may be the greatest statesman in the history of diplomacy. What he's done regarding Iran and keeping that in front of people, it's unbelievable. On the world stage, he has been amazing. I am not here to stump for him or to stump for anyone else. I want to give you all the facts that I know as I see them and then ask you to pray. I'm not telling you what I'm going to do. I don't know what I'm going to do. That's the honest truth. But I do want to invite you to pray for us, okay? Just when you thought that the Democrats found their backbone, they lost it again. They're getting out their Google Maps and they're typing in backbone. What am I talking about? I'm talking about Congresswoman Ilhan Omar, who is an anti-Semite. She is an anti-Semite. And I can't remember ever, I'm 53 years old, I can't ever remember where somebody has stated 3 anti-Semitic tropes in Congress, publicly, on Twitter, within a month or two of themselves. It just never happened. You have now somebody in Congress that every few weeks is saying something about the Jews, hinting at the fact that we control the world. Let me just say something. I wish we controlled the world. Isn't it obvious to you that we don't, since everyone pretty much doesn't like us? I wish we controlled the media. Isn't it obvious that we don't, since the media is pretty much anti-Israel? Anyways, here's the most recent thing that she said. She is saying that nobody should put pressure on her to be pro-Israel, and nobody should call her anti-American if she's not pro-Israel. By the way, nobody said that. No, you're making that up. Nobody has said that you have to be pro-Israel. What she goes on to tweet out is that there are some Americans in politics who their allegiance is more to Israel than it is to the United States. That is considered anti-Semitism. When you say to a Jewish congressman or a Jewish politician that your loyalty is not with America, it's in Israel because you have pro-Israel policy, that's anti-Semitic. And it's also stupid and it's also ignorant. You see, what she doesn't understand is that it's possible to say, hey, Israel is in the Middle East. It's the only legitimate democracy in the Middle East. Lebanon sort of has one, but Hezbollah controls about 1/3 of their parliament. Not really. You got a king in Jordan. Iraq is trying. You got a theocracy in Iran. Israel is the only legitimate, long-lasting democracy in the Middle East. Wouldn't it be normal that America, the promoter of democracy all over the world, would be friends with Israel? And wouldn't it be okay to be slanted towards Israel, to help Israel, to encourage Israel without having to hear someone like Ilhan Omar say, well, you love Israel more than you love America? That's ridiculous. And so she was slapped on the wrist for this. Democrats from all walks of life. In fact, let's see if I can find this tweet here. So Congressman Nita Lowey, I believe she's Jewish, she said she was saddened by Omar's mischaracterizing of support for Israel and urged her to find out from the Jewish community why such comments are hurtful. Now, in the past, Omar has apologized. Like she says, I loved how Ben Shapiro phrased it a few weeks ago. He said, quoting her fictitiously, "I apologize for my anti-Semitic remark. Now let me find out another way to say the same thing." That's pretty much what keeps happening here. And so Omar doubled down and she said, "Our democracy is built on debate." Okay, that's fine. Nobody's arguing with you about that. Congresswoman, exclamation point. So she's kind of rebuking her. "I should not be expected to have allegiance, pledge support to a foreign country in order to serve my country and Congress or serve on a committee." What are you talking about? Nobody is asking you to be pro-Israel. Nobody's saying that you don't have a right to criticize the Israeli government. What you're being criticized for is saying that anyone who is pro-Israel, it means that they are more allegiant to Israel than the United States. And that is ignorant. That is stupid, and it's anti-Semitic. So she was rebuked from both aisles, and the Democrats, they said, well, you know what? To combat this, to rebuke you, to make it really strong, and to show the rest of the Democratic Party, because in politics, everything is politics. They're not doing this because they're mad at her. They're doing this because they don't want the rest of the Democrats to think that they are the party of tolerating anti-Semitism. But that is what they are becoming. And so, in fact, even last night, when I went to hear Yair Lapid speak, somebody asked him, they had to answer a question afterwards, and he said, if you were in America, what party would you be in? And he said, I would be a conservative Democrat. Unfortunately, there is no such thing anymore. And he made mention of AOC, of Ilhan Omar, saying that they have hijacked the Democratic Party and taken it so far to the left into anti-Semitism. In fact, AOC, she's actually came out in defense. And now I woke up this morning, Elizabeth Warren, Pocahontas, she is coming out in defense now. So if they went from saying, we're going to rebuke her, we're going to actually pass a bill that condemns anti-Semitism, to now they're defending poor sweet Ilhan. And let's just be honest. She is sweet. She's attractive. She's petite. She's an immigrant. I'm sure she's had a very difficult childhood going from Ethiopia to Somalia to America, where she has made it into Congress, which for that I applaud her. It's an amazing story. But she hates Israel. And so what happened is they got backlash from the extreme left wing of the party, which is becoming the mainstream Democratic part of the party, saying, well, if you're going to condemn anti-Semitism, you have to condemn this and this and this and this. And so it gets watered down. And now I read this morning that they're pretty much going to scrap it because they're afraid of the far left wing. So as I said earlier, the Democratic Party is searching for their backbone. If you find it, let them know. Hey, friend, I don't know where you're listening or watching. Maybe you're on Facebook, maybe you're on iTunes. I want to encourage you, if you're on Facebook, would you please share this with your friends, like this broadcast? That enables us to reach more people with the truth about what is happening here in the Holy Land. Now, if you're listening to the podcast on iTunes, would you mind going and giving us a 5-star review? That also helps us reach more people. Thank you so much. Have you ever been to the Golan Heights? This time of year, it is absolutely beautiful. It's green, flowers everywhere. It is just one of the most beautiful things you've ever seen until you get to the Syrian border. And then on the other side, it is a wasteland. You see Quneitra, old Quneitra, basically a ghost town. On the Israeli side, you see farms, you see prosperity. On the Syrian side, you see devastation. It's starking. It's really stunning to see. And what's really exciting is that right now, 2 senators, Tom Cotton and Ted Cruz, are pushing forth a bill where America would recognize what has been reality since 1967, and that is that Israel, or rather the Golan Heights, is part of Israel. So let me just give you a little bit of history. In 1967, the Golan Heights, these mountains that oversee the Sea of Galilee and all the Israeli Galilean communities, Syria controlled, that was part of Syria, and they would bomb Israel. And bomb Israel. There's a great story about Eli Cohen, our greatest spy ever. He was so successful in infiltrating Syria that he almost became the foreign minister of the country. And he would take trips on the Golan Heights, which again was part of Syria, and he would find out where all their armaments were, everything they were doing. And he'd say, can I, hey, you stand there. Let me get a picture of this. And then the next day, Israel would bomb it. And they were like, well, how did they know? How did they know? Because the dude that's about to be your foreign minister is actually an Israeli spy. Sadly, they caught him and they hung him, and it's a tragic story, but he is Israel's greatest spy. Having said that, finally in 1967, when Egypt in the south and Syria in the north was about to attack Israel and destroy Israel, understand that every time that foreign nations have attacked us, it has not been with any other goal other than the full destruction of the nation of Israel. So when we respond, we're not just, all right, it's a skirmish. No, we're responding to an existential threat. People trying to wipe out the entire nation. So in 1967, as we were about to be attacked in a preemptive strike, we attacked Egypt and Syria. Now, Syria literally was an uphill battle. You got to understand, at that time, we didn't have all the technology that we have today. Missile defense systems, the Iron Dome, the Arrow missile, the THAAD missile, which just got hit Israel. We didn't have any of that. So what we literally had to do was fight an uphill battle, and I've climbed over there in the Golan Heights. I can't imagine having 40 pounds of equipment on me. I can't imagine the greatest tank battles in the world were in 1967 and 1973 in the Golan Heights. And somehow, honestly, through the grace of God, Israel ended up with the Golan Heights. We were able to protect our people. All the Arabs who lived there, the Druze, we made them citizens. Many of them serve in our army. They have freedom. They're loyal to Israel. They have a great life. In fact, my friend Moti, one of our pastors here, he was in Jordan a couple years ago ministering to refugees from Syria. And some of them came from the area. And when they found out he was Israeli, he said, can you please take over our area too? They were so tired of living under Syrian dictatorship. True story. Anyways, we annexed the Golan Heights after that. Then in 1973, Syria attacked again. They should have won. We were down. Oh, if you ever, just Google the Valley of Tears. Learn about the story of Erom and the tank battle there, because we were down to one tank. And then without explanation, easier way to say it, inexplicably, easy for me to say. We got like hundreds of people here helping me. Without explanation, he ran away. Without explanation, the entire Syrian army ran away. Whatever tanks they had, they just turned around and they left, and we kept the Golan Heights. And it's really beautiful. If you ever get up there to Mount Bental, you can just see the whole area. It's just unbelievable. So anyways, we annexed that in 1967. It's flourishing now. Nobody else recognized it but us, just Israel. And finally, America is coming and saying, you know what? Come on. Are we going to really say that area belongs to the butcher of Damascus? We're going to give that strategic area back to a man who's responsible for the deaths of almost 500,000 people since 2011? Bashar Assad? Of course not. Let's just recognize reality. Now, part of what we're hearing behind the scenes is that some Israeli officials are saying, no, just keep it quiet. Nobody's giving us a hard time about the Golan Heights right now, so don't bring it to the forefront and recognize it. But the Prime Minister's office said, no, it's not coming from us. We want that recognition. And I have to be honest, as an Israeli American, I really want it too. Again, you got to get over here in the spring and see the Golan Heights. It's one of the most beautiful things you've ever seen in your life, and we're not giving it back. Hey friend, this month at tikkuncares.org, can you go there? tikkuncares.org. We are highlighting a ministry up in Haifa. It's a congregation there led by my good friend Leonid. And in his congregation, they decided that they wanted to reach people, not just the young people in our congregation, but all over the neighborhood. So they started a music school 9 years ago. Leon said that he was concerned that even in his congregation, that some of the kids were getting involved with the wrong crowd, and after school, they were on the streets doing bad things. So he got them in a music school, and he says, you get them playing a violin for about a year, and they don't want to go back to the street. They have saved many in their congregations from going into that lifestyle. And then what happened is that people around the neighborhood heard about it, and they said, hey, we want to send our kids there. So they subsidize it. They basically get a 50% discount, and that's where you come in. We are believing God we need about $30,000 to help them, to bless them for their budget this year so they can continue being a blessing in Haifa. Go learn all about it at tikkuncares.org. Well, friends, as you can see, a lot is happening here in Israel. Again, keep in prayer, April 9th, elections here in Israel. We want God's will. We want the right leader for this nation. We want God's blessing. And keep us in prayer here in Tel Aviv with our congregation, Tiferet Yeshua. And then during the week, we have Nes V'Kefe. We want to see revival here in Tel Aviv. And all the Tikkun congregations in Jerusalem and Haifa and what's called the Cryo right near Lebanon in the Galilee, all over this country. Would you keep us in prayer? Say a blessing over us, and we will say a blessing over you in the name of Yeshua. Shalom.